And we are live on the Real Talk with JT. And I got somebody real special today over here. My brother from another mother, DC from Portland, the guy who really knows what it takes to build a team the right way and scale it to the next level. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. So, David, I really, really appreciate you. I mean, you always go above and beyond for me. We know each other for a long time. And you're feeling a little under the weather today and you are still on. That
I'm
just
still
shows
here.
us. It just shows us what type of character you are, man. So I
I'll,
appreciate
I'll
you, my brother.
apologize. I'll apologize in advance when my voice cracks and if I lose it, but I'm here. And we've known each other for a long time because we're twin brothers. Most people won't believe that,
Yeah,
but we were
yeah,
both born
yeah.
in May of 1983.
That's right.
So
That's
not just
right.
brothers, we're twin brothers.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I'm a smaller version of David, though.
Smaller.
Tom
I'll
goes with
never
the big
forget.
D, right?
I'll never forget the first time we met, and you're like, "Wow, you're a lot bigger in person."
Yeah,
I
yes,
thought you would
indeed.
be. It's funny.
And always when we see each other, we wrestle too. So we
We
real brothers,
wrestle. Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
love it, my man. So before we go into it, we know each other. I know you. I know you pretty well. What can you tell? What can you tell the viewers watching it live right now? Maybe on the replay. Like, who is David besides being a coach and master team leader and just a great guy overall? Like, who you are as a person.
I think I'm just kind of like the average guy, to be honest, right? Like,
Hmm.
I love being a dad. Like that's for people that know me, like that's what's most important to me is being a great dad. Like growing up, all I ever wanted to be was a dad. Um, I live on the West Coast. I live in like the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I was like doing like normal dad things. Like I run my business. I like to work out. I like to do jujitsu. I love music. Like I don't know. I'm just kind of like a boring guy. I like to eat pancakes in the morning. Like, I don't know. Nothing too exciting.
Wow, I love it. Pancakes, blueberry ones, or you put some chocolate on it as
Strawberry,
well.
strawberry pancakes.
Strawberry.
Almost,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
almost every
Is
morning.
that a secret? Is that a secret? Is that a secret pill? Strawberry pancakes?
That's the secret to having a dad bod. Yeah. So
I
if
love
anyone on
that.
here wants a dad bod, strawberry pancakes. That's how you get a dad bod.
All the way. I love it, man. And so tell me, you said, and if you're okay with it, I'll put you in a spot sometimes. Maybe if you make
Sure.
you feel a little uncomfortable. I know you said you want to be a real dad. Like, why is that important to you?
Why is it important to me to be a good dad? Because there's still a lot of bad ones. And just be honest, like fully transparent, my dad passed away when I was 9 months old. And I have a great dad, great stepdad. But it's just always really important to me when I had kids to like have a great relationship with them and teach them to grow up to be good people and be who they are. And yeah, I'm just like totally obsessed with being a dad.
I love it, man. And that's why I think we just click so well together because my parents got divorced when I was two as well. So I always, for my son, I want to be the best dad out there. Something which I didn't have. I really want to make sure that he has that. And I also
Yeah.
feel like David, observing a lot of people, it's kind of like if you are missing on something, it is super important to you, right? So it's like, for example, if you're coming from a great family, loving family, right? Like the parents, they pour all the life into you, they give you anything and everything you need. Now you're growing up, you're not really seeking it. But
Yeah.
if you didn't have that, right now you're like, oh man, I need to get it now because I didn't have it. I want it now. Do you feel
Yeah.
like it had that positive, positive effect on you as well with your dad?
Yeah, I mean, I had great parents, like I have mom tattooed on my arm. Like I have a great relationship with my mom. I have a great relationship with my dad, my stepdad. But I just think that like because I had a great relationship with them, I want to make sure that my kids have that because it's easy to observe people that don't have great parents or people to look up to. And I wanted to make sure that my
Yeah.
kids had someone inside the house to look up to, that they didn't have to look outside of the house for that. And I think I'm being that. Like I'm pretty positive I am. But yeah, that's just like that's number one to me.
No, I mean, look, you inspire me myself because every time I'm looking your social media, like every single day, you're with the girls, and you're giving the time, you're pouring yourself into it, right? And you can't always depend on the outside, even though we want our kids to kind of toughen up and have those own experiences and make their own mistakes so they can learn those lessons. But at the same time, like, do you really want them to become the victims to the circumstances sometimes? Like you really don't want to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a different dad than I thought I'd be because I thought I'd be like a really big pushover. And I find myself like I
Mm-hmm.
want them to learn lessons. I want to teach them lessons. I'm soft for sure. They're spoiled. But yeah, like I want them to know they have options and can be like as much as they want to be.
Yeah. And I think inspire them, right? And empowering the kids, that's so important. Now, how does this relate to our business? How does this
You
relate to your agents on the team and the staff and everybody else?
Well, like I think like going back to like I want my kids to know they can be whatever they can be. I think that's the same thing with the people on my team or the people that I coach. I'm not like easily impressed by people because I
Hmm.
just always believe people can do more and not to a point where like, I sometimes joke that my superpower is I call it like being disappointed dad or my coaching style. Where like I'm going to get you to love me. And then instead of like yelling at you, I'm going to tell you you're capable of more. And if I'm leading you right and I have the right relationship, hopefully you're going to believe me on some timeline. You don't have to believe it the first time I say it, but I'm not going to say it unless I believe it. And when I look at the average person walking down the street, I actually generally believe that most people are capable of a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that leadership is telling people what to do, right? Like leadership is helping people become who they want to become, right? And sometimes helping them discover, what that is. A lot of it is vision. And
Hmm.
um, I definitely try to practice that with my children and with the people that I'm fortunate enough to lead or have a voice in their business, whether it's big or small.
Yeah. And why do you think there is a lack of vision for most, even team leaders building their team?
Well, I think in our business, a lot of people start teams because they're chasing production. It may be even the easy button, or it might be the trend of the moment. I think when I started a team 11 years ago, it wasn't for the right reasons. It was because everyone else was doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And along the way, you really realize like, well, why do you have a team to help people become better or to shift your role? I love selling real estate, but I really prefer helping people grow, over selling. But I think a big mistake people make when they get into building a team is that one, they're just doing it for production. They're doing it to make more money. They're doing it, because of trends, and they don't think forward enough to what they actually want to build over time. And you hear all the time that, uh, building a real estate team or a business is a marathon, not a sprint. I go
Mm.
one step further. It's like an ultra marathon. It's
Mm.
way further, you know, regardless of your ambitions, right? And, you and I were going to enter our 40s in May, and
Yeah.
we're still like almost 20 years younger than the average person in this business. Like probably a lot of people listening to this are younger, and, gosh, I've been doing this for 15 years. And I'm like, 15 years from now, I'm going to be what, 54? Like
Yeah.
that doesn't feel old like it used to sound old to me. But I've been doing this like most of my life.
Yeah. For sure. And I think it's almost like you see even agents, single agents, right, getting into the business for the quick bucks
Mhm.
versus taking this as their real career and doing it for the right reasons, or just focusing on the seller versus like serving the client. So I feel like, as a team leaders, it's more about serving our agents and making them better and really
Mhm.
impacting their life and taking care of their needs and wants and everything they need. And in
Yeah.
return, they're going to take care of the customers, right?
Yeah. Well, the best people in every industry are people that like want to serve. And that
Hmm.
could like literally be like the person at Chick-fil-A that likes their job, that just is like going to show up and wants to get people a good experience,
Yeah.
like all the way up to real estate. And, that's a quality that people have. It's not a skill. A lot of people sometimes confuse that with a skill, but that's a characteristic of who someone is. And it's
Yeah.
that old adage of how you show up here is how you show up everywhere, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, you so right on, right? You can go to McDonald's and you can do the drive through and the guy just throws the burger at you and hey, and like, if you don't want to do the job, like, why don't you get a different job? Versus you
Mhm.
can see a guy is like so excited about the job and stuff like that. And it's not just because of the pay or the job, it's really who they are as people and doing it for the right
For sure.
reasons.
For sure.
Now, who inspire you as a leader? Because I know, we talk a lot about leadership and you big
Yeah.
on that. Like, who had the biggest impact on your life when it comes to leadership?
Uh, there's the list of people is too long, to be
Yeah.
honest, right? Like
Yeah.
before I had some of the mentors I have now, like I have like mentors from these books. Like a lot of these books are books on
Is that
leadership.
is that is that me over there in the photo behind you?
Which one is what on the photo?
The painting right there?
Oh, Conor McGregor.
It looks
Yeah,
like me
that's
a
you.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Bill Murray in tattoo form from The Life Aquatic,
Yeah.
Steve Sisu. Um, you know, there have been a lot of people in my life that have shown me what good leadership is now as you reflect on it, right? Um, I'm lucky to have like the proximity I have to Tom, where
Hmm.
he's my boss, but he's like my big brother, like
Yeah.
as I've gone through hard times, like there are times that he calls me just to see how I am, right? It has nothing to do with our professional
Business.
relationship. And
Yeah.
that's leadership, right? Um, but there have been a lot of people, especially in my professional career, that some led me for a time, some have led me at different points where we go back to each other. um
Hmm.
but like the leaders that I look up to, they're all servant leaders. um I love John Maxwell, I love Simon Sinek. I've learned so many leadership lessons from them. I like Jocko Willink. Tom, obviously, like he's taken a great leadership role in my life and in
Hmm.
my business. Shoot, I feel like there's people that I coach that lead me. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's yeah, the list is just it's too long. But if you just look and observe, there's probably a lot of people that are teaching you lessons and helping lead you if you open your eyes to it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to the Tom Ferry organization, of course. Guys, if you're watching this live on the replays, you like this, give us some thumbs up, share with your friends and family so they can benefit out of it as well, and give us some comments. If there's any questions you want to ask David, just put it in and we'll get those answers and answered. Okay. Now, what is your favorite leadership book? Which one would you suggest to the viewers to read right away? They're serious
It's
about this.
that's so hard, to answer like what's my favorite leadership book.
Hmm.
You know, a great book that I post about almost every single day on my Instagram story, which is a great leadership book, but it's not a leadership book, is The Daily Stoic, which are just quotes and observations from these guys, hundreds of years, leading the world. Probably
Hmm.
over time, the person about leadership from in book form is John Maxwell. I love Simon Sinek. Like I've listened to hours and hours and hours of him. Um, you learn about leadership is people that lead organizations, regardless of what kind they are, all
Mhm.
over YouTube. There's thousands and thousands of hours of interviews with people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and, these actual entrepreneurs who have built something, or Bill Ackman, who, I've learned so much about business and leadership from listening to Bill Ackman talk about the companies he's invested in and why he's made the moves that he's
Mhm.
made. So I think if you want to learn about leadership, if I reframe the question a little bit, you have to go learn about leadership.
Yeah.
What I what I am for sure is a student of leadership. And I think that's going to be excuse me. I think being a student of leadership is something that I'm going to practice my entire life,
Yeah.
because it's something that's so important to me. And man, there's so many amazing books out there. But I think, servant leadership, that's for me. Like, I love
Yeah.
servant leadership.
Servant leadership. And why is it so important to you, the leadership itself? I know you do spend a lot of time on it, really educating yourself and getting better at it, but why is that important?
I mean, if I go like, personally, like what I want to achieve, I cannot
Mhm.
achieve on my own. And if people are going to elevate me to a position of being a leader, I'm going to be really good at it, because I want to help other people achieve. And I've been lucky that people have, placed me into that, or into those positions. It's never been necessarily something I sought,
Mhm.
but it's a place that I've naturally ended up. And if I'm going to end up there, I need to get better. And that's one of the reasons I even became a coach, is I wanted to become a better leader. And there were qualities that I felt like I did not have in 2017.
Mhm.
Over the last 5 years, I've developed. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And what is leadership for you, David? Because this is so good.
well, my favorite definition of leadership, I actually heard in a Simon Sinek video,
Mhm.
and he said, it's asking someone about their day and actually caring about the answer. And that's a really like simplified way of saying that, like, when you're leading someone, you actually care about what they're trying to get to and what they're trying to achieve. When someone misses their sales goals, as an example, yell at them, you ask them, what's going on? Are you okay? I want to be in business and I want to coach people that I believe in, that I like really care about what they're doing. And, when I think about becoming a better leader, it's not about how do I get what I want. It's how can I learn about this person and help them get to their goal and achieve what they're trying to achieve. You said it earlier, like, I've always kind of coached and lived through this framework, which is, what's the fastest and easiest way for me to achieve my
Yeah.
goal where I'm happy going to work every day? The key the key phrase in that statement is, I'm happy going to work every day. If you're in a position of leadership, it's your job and responsibility to make sure people are happy going to work every day.
Yeah.
But a
That's
lot of leaders don't think about that.
yeah. And it is so true. I think really bringing the humanity into the business, right, and treating people as people, not just as transactions or employees. It really makes the difference.
Mm-hmm. There are transactional agents and there's transactional team
Hmm.
leaders. How do you get someone to stay on your team for 10 years or in your organization? You help them achieve what they want to achieve, period. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And David, so we got a couple of questions. Because a lot of agents, they really want to build a team. Do you
Mhm.
feel like a team, it's a good fit for everybody,
No, a team is not right for
for
everybody.
someone really?
Now, like
Okay.
building a team, like being a team leader, no,
Hmm.
it's not right for
Yep.
everybody. Some people should be employee number 5 at Google, and they should be they should be a really important person on a team,
Yeah.
but maybe they shouldn't be leading the team.
Hmm.
And some people are better as solo agents. You know, oh, people go, Zillow leads work or don't work. Well, there's people that know how to work Zillow leads, and there's people that don't. And some people say
Yeah.
teams don't
Yeah.
work. Well, there's people that know how to lead teams and defensively run a P&L and hold people accountable and train people and hold them to a higher standard than they might hold themselves to. Or there's people that don't.
Yeah.
If you look at the average team, they're made up of the average agent in the marketplace, but they generally have unaverage opportunities. But a lot of team leaders don't know how to create unaverage opportunities.
What do you mean by that? Tell me more about it.
How do you create an unaverage opportunity? One way would be skill transfer, actually training people to be better than they are. Oh, sorry, I'm talking too much. My voice is going. There are teams where people are well trained and they have systems and they have a framework and a guardrail around a business. And then there's teams where an agent comes in and they're given a business card with a logo on it. And that's not a team, that's an endorsement.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams in our industry are made up of agents on the team that are endorsed. And they don't have unaverage opportunities. They haven't been trained well. They don't have systems or guardrails. They don't have lead flow coming in. And the reason people should join teams is not for leads. They should join it for leadership.
Yeah.
Hey, a lot of team leaders, they're not selling leadership. They're selling friendship. You know, like you should be friendly. You should be friendly with the people on your teams and you could be friends with them. But your value proposition should not be friendship.
Yeah.
It should be leadership.
Now, I also think that it's a hard transition for a lot of agents, right? Because, in order to be a successful agent and successful team leader, it takes a completely different skill set, right? And I think, even though you have the skill set as an agent, you can apply that in being a leader. So what do you think are some of the most important steps if an agent, is transitioning from just being a solo agent and he wants to be a team leader and maybe he wants to get an assistant, a couple of agents to help him upscale, right? Yeah. What would be some of the first steps for him to really take to make this a successful transition?
Well, the first step that everyone misses is not a hire, because everyone goes to it's a hire. Before that's a vision. Before that's like, what am I trying to build? And from that vision, we have to think about what are the guardrails I'm going to put around my business? What are the systems that I need to create? Well, then I can go hire someone to help me build it. But the person that I hire to help me build it, they have to share the vision. Like Caitlin on my team is probably the fourth person in her role in 10 years. Man, we really share a common vision. She's probably the first person that we really share a common vision. What's funny is almost everyone else that's been in that role, they're still on the team in some other capacity. But she's the person who's going to take ownership over that role and help me or help us build Hillshire into something completely different. Because we finally have someone who has a similar vision.
Yeah.
But that's the first step. The easy answer, the coach answer, the training answer that everyone says, we got to hire an executive assistant to do all the paperwork and do all the $10 an hour work. But let's be real. None of us want $10 an hour assistants. We all want people that have $80,000 a year skill set and work ethic. And you don't get those people for $10K. You just don't, right? And real estate's a skilled labor business. And you shouldn't call it $10 an hour work, because it's not. If you're making $200 an hour selling, your administrative work is equally as important, because that's client experience. Just give it to someone else and pay them what they're worth to do it. But having strong operations is exceedingly important in a real estate business.
So would you say the very first step will be having the vision, having the right structure in place, and then hire an executive operator?
Yeah,
You can
and I'd
talk,
say
kind of share the vision.
you don't even have to have the structure yet,
Hmm.
but you have to know what you're building. You have to know what you want to build, or at least start that map. But yeah, I mean, agents need support,
Oh yeah.
right? Top agents, new agents, there needs to be someone to help with that support. And what happens with a lot of teams is they start with salespeople because they don't cost
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
And now we're not a team. We're not working together. We're loosely working together with a brand endorsement. And there's a cost to absentee leadership. I'm someone who always talks about systems, guardrails, value proposition. What are you building? And you'll hear a lot of people go, well, that's not important to me. I was like, well, you sound like a for sale by owner, right? Like, these things are important, right? The things that we build, the services and systems we have, they're important. And it's important not to skip steps, because when you do, you generally have to go back and fix something, or you have to go back and change your economic model. Profitability is important. And when an economic model gets changed, generally, generally it's because the path to profitability is too difficult. And takeaways are a bitch, right?
Yeah.
When you change something up on your team, that's usually when people leave.
Yeah,
So,
you feel like there's a lack of delegation or lack of training of the staff on the
oh,
leaders part.
100%. There's either too much delegation or there's not enough, usually, right? Well, I don't know how to do this, so I hired this person who also doesn't know how to do it, and I'm expecting them to do it. I believe in order to delegate something, you should have a basic understanding of it. But,
And I think yesterday I watched a podcast from Bigger Pockets, and they talk about the checklist is as good as the person executing on the checklist.
mhm,
And many times if it's just a checklist and they don't really share the common vision and goals, right, and they're not vested in it,
yeah.
then they're not going to do it, right, and then they're going to pour into it really.
And that goes back to, $10 an hour work and paying $10 an hour work for it, or believing it's $10 an hour
Yeah.
work. When it's not, it's probably $50 an hour work. And we
Yeah.
need $50 an hour people to execute the work in order to have an organization that can really scale and grow.
Hmm.
And one comment I'll make on that is people don't make that higher because their income is going to go down in the short term. But that's what making an investment is. Like, when you make an investment, you're taking capital from here, you're putting it here, and you're hoping to get paid back. A lot of people confuse that as a loss, but it's not a loss. Like in our space right now, people want to talk about Compass and all the money they're spending. Their investors didn't give it to them to let it sit in a bank account, right? Like, I think Robert Reffkin has come out and said that. But when you are a startup company and you go raise capital, they don't give you that money to sit in a bank. They give it they give it to you for you to go spend. And sometimes you have to spend and lose to get to profitability.
Yeah. And I mean, how what do you think? I heard Byron Lazine talk about on the elite about teams, and how even the small Navy SEAL teams, it's gonna be really difficult for them to really succeed in today's market. Like, where do you think the teams are going? Small teams versus mega teams.
Well, small teams work in high price marketplaces
Okay.
because it's not about the size. It's not about the size of the team if it works or not. It's about the size of the revenue coming in and how the revenue gets chopped up. So can a SEAL team make it in a high price market? Yeah, look at Manhattan, right? Look at New York City where you live. There's lots of teams with high average with a high average sales price that can do exceedingly well with a small staff and a SEAL team. But if we looked at the average team in the United States, yeah, they probably don't make money until they have a dozen, a dozen or more team members. And if you are profitable, and you are a small team with less than that, remove your own production from your business and see if you're still profitable. Because most teams will not be profitable at that point. So I do think that mega teams, like brokerage, wins with agent count. Brokerage can't win without agent count. Why would a team be any different?
Yeah.
It's not. But
so why are we treating it differently, or at least most of the agents they look at it differently?
Because they see what they want to see as far as what they want to build, and they're not looking at their economic model. And people believe hype a lot, and they believe stories. That's just a great sales pitch, right? Lots of people have a great pitch. But would I want to be an investor? Would you want to be an investor? You know how many real estate agents I know that think their business is worth $1 million and it's not worth anything?
And they wouldn't invest into their business themselves probably either.
No. Like, what do you think your business is worth? $1 million, please. It's not worth anything.
You wish.
But I think most people in our business, we talk about GCI. Let's talk about Zillow Flex real quick. Most Zillow Flex teams, 50% to the agent, 35% to Zillow, which leaves 15% for the operator. So $1 million in GCI for a lot of Zillow Flex teams is $150,000 gross.
Plus you got to calculate the staff, the ISAs, all that good stuff to keep that machine going, right?
Yeah. So whoop-de-doo, you did $1 million in GCI and you kept almost nothing. Now, those deals down the road, referrals, things like that, super valuable. Not shitting on it. But that's what the people in the audience don't hear. That's what a lot of team leaders aren't conceptualizing when they're signing up for something like that. Again, that's an investment. But people go, oh my gosh, you did $1 million in GCI. Who cares? There's a lot of people doing millions of dollars in GCI, no money. But that's people don't believe that they have to be a certain size because our industry, unfortunately, this is maybe a statement people won't like, but we all get told we're these great entrepreneurs. Real estate's a whole industry of entrepreneurs, but it's not. It's an industry of salespeople. The person who sells me a suit that works on commission only, I'm not like, oh, you're a great entrepreneur. The person who works on commission only at the car dealership, no one's like, oh man, you're an auto broker. You're a great entrepreneur. No, you're a salesperson. What percentage of our industry are great entrepreneurs? I don't know the answer.
Probably like 0.0000001%.
More than 90% are just salespeople, and most of those salespeople suck at it.
And David, do you also think because they don't think about themselves, they actually salesperson, they don't pay attention to their sales skills to begin with. And we know we're moving from momentum marketing to skill-based market, and they don't know what to say, they don't know what to ask, and they can really service those clients because they don't have that sales skills.
Yeah, one of the most toxic traits in real estate is people thinking they're not a salesperson because you're selling yourself, period. Whether, you have to sell the person on why they should work with you when they know 8 other agents. Now, obviously, this is a consulting job. Like, it's advisory. There's no magic script to make someone buy a house. But some people that want to buy a house, they talk themselves out of wanting to buy it. And we have to continually sell them on why they should, why they came to us in the first place. Or we have to sell the price reduction. Like this, this is a sales job. Jared Johnson, you are an entrepreneur, Jared. Give me a break. Um, you know,
Come on, Jared. So funny.
the but this industry, right? We tell ourselves we're not salespeople because we don't want to make sales calls. And this business is about conversations. It's about making an impact. You know, as a coach, I love meeting people and they're like, money on marketing. Like, wow, so you're not an entrepreneur. Because if you were, you would know that you could put money behind your business and make way more money. Way more, whether you want to or not. If you ask these people who brag about that, waste more money. You would actually put money behind what you're doing and do more of it. Like, it's not a flex to say you're not a salesperson, and it's not a flex to say advertising and all these things that people think are like such a flex. They're not, right? You know, I'm really lucky that I get to coach some of like I think the best real estate teams in America.
For sure.
They're radically open-minded. Radically. They're not stuck in one thing or the other. They
right?
They all recognize that they're salespeople. They all recognize what they're building is a sales organization. They're all willing to try everything, organic, paid, whatever, right? Because they're entrepreneurs.
Now,
So
what are
long
some
answer.
of the biggest? What are some of the went through in building your team? We back. It was a little glitch.
I lost I think
All
you're
right,
asking,
we are back, guys.
yeah. Ask that again.
Yeah, what are some of the most expensive lessons you went through in building your team?
Yeah. Well, one was not recognizing that this is an agent count. When you have a team, it's an agent count business in the price point market that I'm in. Going to Byron's point, you need agent count. And I thought I could do it with less people. And that cost me money because when people leave and then those leads don't get followed up with, it costs you money. It was harder to get to profitability with a lower agent count. A big thing that cost me a lot of money, that was a mindset thing, was if someone comes to my team and leaves, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad leader or they're a bad person. It just meant that we were bad business partners or that our models didn't work together. That cost me a lot because that kept me from growing. You know, it's really easy when someone leaves to take it personally. And sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. Most of the time, your visions are just not in alignment with each other.
That's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. You know, I should have been more rigid with my guardrails around my business. You know, we know we have a rule. If you don't sell X number of houses in a calendar year, you don't get to be on the team. You don't get to be on the team. If you want the good leads,
minimum standards. You gotta have some minimum standards. You saying?
Yeah. If you want the good leads, you gotta work. You gotta work the bad leads. I run my team as a meritocracy, meaning that the best agents get more opportunities. Now,
because they deserve them.
Yeah. Most teams try to give the same opportunities to everybody. And you guys, like someone who's been on my team for 10 years, they should get more than the person on my team that's been here for 10 days. But so many teams offer everyone the same thing regardless of tenure. And I'm not talking splits because my splits are the same. But the opportunity you get is not.
This is so good, David. I love it, man.
Look, I think that's something that cost me a lot in the beginning was thinking I could personally outwork my P&L. I think a lot of agents, newer agents, we fall into that trap. Well, if I can't get to profitability, I'll just sell another house and it'll be fine. You have to understand what you're putting into the business and what you're expecting out of it. because no one wants to run an unprofitable business. And that's why so many people give up or are stressed out or aren't fulfilled when they're going to work. And if we go back to the beginning of the podcast, what's the fastest, easiest way for me to achieve my goal where I'm happy going to work every day? Not where I'm fucked up and sad, right? Where I'm happy, not where I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
You have to have clarity around what you're doing and what the path to profitability is for every excuse me, for every party on the team. For myself, for my videographer, for Caitlin, for my VA, right? For my salespeople, for my top salespeople, for my junior salespeople. How do we all win? And what's that path?
You know,
The
what would
average.
I love this. What would you suggest, David, to some team leaders, which they do a lot of sales, and now they figure, what, if I really want to scale, I want my life back, I maybe gotta bring some agents on the bus. However, I don't want to train them, I don't want to coach them, I don't want to give them the time, because we know if you want to grow, it's always two steps back to move forward, right? Slow down to eat up.
Yep.
So what would be your suggestion for people when they're going through that transition?
If you don't want to lead people, you better hire a leader that wants to lead, or don't start a team. There's a cost to what I call absentee leadership. And people don't join teams for absentee leadership or bad structure, or even who you think you are, right? Excuse me, my cold's getting to me again. People will join and stay on your team because they believe in you and you help them get more than they could get on their own. That you help them get their goal faster, that you make them feel a certain way, that you're invested in them, that it's better to be in business with you, investing with you, because that's what a split is. It's an investment in their business and yours. And that's why they'll stay on your team. But if you make it all about you and your ego, or you make it about you and your brand, right? It's everyone's brand at the end of the day, right? Like it's not about a singular person. If you don't want to lead people, hire someone who wants to and step us to the side, right? And be on the board of directors, or don't. Just don't do it because you'll fail.
Yeah.
You'll fail.
David, since you mentioned splits, right? Do you feel like there's gonna be, commission compression and splits compression? You feel like brokerages or teams are not as profitable as they used to be, and will be non-existent in the future?
So here's how I think about commission compression. It's cost versus value.
Hmm.
And nobody wants to drive a Kia or a Hyundai. Like everyone wants to drive a luxury car. And that luxury car has more options. It's safer, it's better built, it's better run, it's more reliable. And if we're talking about the average agent, the average agent, they flee towards cost compression, right? And a lot of consumers, they'll go with the discount broker. I don't see any difference with that in brokerage. It's cost versus value. People want to argue a lot that the services don't matter. Well, I make the same argument that when you list a house for sale, a lot of the shit that you do doesn't matter then. Just put in the MLS and price it right, right? And you can sell it. But at a listing presentation, you're not pitching that. At a listing presentation, people are pitching their flyers and the quality of the paper, and I'm going to post it on my social, and I'm going to do this, and this. People complain about price when they're not seeing value, but most successful businesses do not cost cut their way to profitability. And that's kind of what that is, right? Like you're seeing, is there going to be brokerage fee compression? Well, if there is, what services are going to be cut from the agents? And what value is going to be added? I think there's going to be different models, right? Like there's always room for different models, just like there's room for different car companies. But I'm a cost versus value person, and value is a perception. Let's be clear about that, right? Value is a perception to the consumer, but there's always going to be expensive options and there's always going to be inexpensive options. And as agents, we have to choose. As agents, we have to choose, a brokerage model that works best for us. And I don't think people should choose that based on fees. If you run a real estate team and you have really low splits, your path to profitability is going to be difficult. If you run a brokerage and you have really low splits and a really low cap, your path to profitability is going to be more difficult. And companies can only stay in business if they have profit. So I don't know. I think we talk about
sake of argument, right? Well, David, if I want to get good agents on my team, well, I got to give them higher splits to really entice them, because maybe they don't need so much support.
I would argue something different, that the best agents, it costs money to run their business. Krista on my team, who did $24 million in sales last year, she needs services. And you can't provide services without taking in a split and then helping her get those services back, unless I don't want to make money. Now, my time is valuable to her in helping her grow. And I'm only willing to give it to her if I can exchange that time I'd give to her and not service a listing or something else. Me and her, we have to win together, right? We both have to make a profit. So yeah, like a big agent might be harder to bring in based on splits. I think let's take a step backwards, because this is a really popular thing in our industry right now. This split conversation wasn't as big pre-pandemic. It's really easy to feel like you're a great real estate agent in a great real estate market. It's really easy. We have short-term memories. Can you be a great real estate agent in a down market? What services do you need in a down market? Stanford has a big study that Tom references all the time of like 25,000 businesses. They didn't cost cut their way to profitability, you guys. So, for me, it's it always comes back to cost versus value, right? It's a cost versus value equation. But hey, most teams that survive, they're on 50-50 splits or some variation of that, right? And people need services to be profitable. Why does Krista stay on my team on a 50-50 split for the deals I give her, 70-30 that she does with no cap, in a marketplace where she could just go stroke a check for $6 or $12 grand and be done? Why have a podcast on if you guys want to listen to it? Right. But it's about the services.
We'll drop the link below, guys. So it's
about the services and what we provide her. And again, it's cost versus value, and that's subjective.
I love it. Now, David, where do you see yourself in the next 5, 10, 20 years? What is the vision for you?
Professionally, I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm trying to figure that out. And, since Jared's on this call watching, I used to tell his wife on coaching calls that when you're a high achiever, there's a lot of opportunities. Don't focus on the ones you say no to, focus on the ones you say yes to, because there's going to be more. And I have lots of opportunity, luckily, right? Like, I get to coach some really great teams, like alongside my mentor. Like, getting to share coaching clients with Tom has like been incredible. Hopefully I'll do more of that. I've had really great opportunities to speak at events, and if I can keep my voice, I'd like to keep doing that. I said the other day on a podcast, I want to build $1 billion team in Portland. There's never been $1 billion team in Portland. And, honestly, I don't know how committed to that goal I am. Like, I like the idea of it. I know I would find a lot of
it sounds cool, right?
Yeah,
it sounds really cool.
I know I'd find a lot of fulfillment in it. And as I'm talking about it, I haven't completely like connected to that yet. One of the things I'm most connected with is I have this goal called fill the stadium. I've talked to you about this before. And I like to name my goals, like my big ones. And fill the stadium basically means like if I was in a tragic accident, I would want so many people to show up to my funeral that I could fill a stadium, and not out of vanity, but the only way you do that is if you add a lot of value to a lot of people. And that's one thing I'm really committed to is, can I add more value to more people? I mean, you know me really well. I'm not a guy that like wants to go speak at events. Like that's not my personality. But I love it because I appreciate the feedback when someone tells me that they did something and it changed their business or their life like that. That's really why I do it. So, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing, but I know that I'm like committed to making an impact, based on the opportunities that come to me. Like it could, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm just going to keep trying to grow myself and try to help other people grow. That's a certainty.
I love that. It's so good. Now, David, what do you think is your superpower?
Man, I'm just me. Like some people think I'm an asshole because I'm really direct, and I'm willing to ask tough questions. Some people probably think I'm like really sensitive because like I'm just me, I heard something on a reel the other day that being okay with people not liking you is an underrated superpower. And that really resonated with me because the only way you can truly be yourself is if you're okay with people not liking you. And I do think that is part of my superpower. I think I'm, I don't know. I don't think I'm that special, but I think I'm very committed to getting better. And I think that's a superpower. I think just having a willingness to learn every day at 40, almost 40 is a superpower. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you guys can answer that know me, what my superpower is. I don't know. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you just super humble and down to earth guy, but don't let the looks confuse you. You are a grinder. When it's time to work and put in the effort, you're the first guy to step it up, right?
Well, thanks.
And I think the other thing, which you kind of told me, you're not afraid to ask for the business, right? You're not afraid to ask, for the thing, and just do what it takes, right?
Yeah. I'm not afraid of rejection. Like I said, I'm not afraid to ask tough questions. I'm not afraid to ask for the business. If I like you, you're going to know I like you. If I don't like you, you might pick up on the fact that I don't like you. Or maybe I'll even tell you. Right. But yeah, I'm just not afraid of like speaking my truth, I guess you could say. Right. So.
I think maybe it comes from you're not afraid of losing that relationship or face in front of someone as well, right?
No, I think with like in negotiations, one of the things I tell agents a lot when I work with them is we don't have to agree on everything, but it's our job to like keep things moving forward. And with my friends, with my coaching clients, things I don't think I'm always right. I love being wrong. Prove me wrong. I love being wrong. I want my ideas to mature. That's really important to me. But I the best relationships I have are with people that I can respectfully disagree on things with.
Yeah, I mean, we have this conversation all the time, and I think we disagree on some of the things, but we talk about it, right? And then I
Yeah,
think that's where the growth happens, actually. So
totally, totally. but but yeah, I mean, I think if more people were honest honest with what they were thinking about, then cheesy, but the world would be a better place, right? Like things would just be better if we could just say what we think and feel, and I think about that sometimes. Like I'm not an Instagram influencer, but I have a decent audience. Whenever I'm really vulnerable about like like somewhat masculine things, that's where I get the best response on everything. And I'm like, or when I'm talking about being a dad or enjoying like the little things in life, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to do more of that, because that is really like authentic to who I am. That's a piece of me I don't show very often. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah, this is so good, man. And why do you think, David? Why do you think a lot of people in today's day and age they are just so afraid being themselves?
Well, I think like we live in this like world of filters and
Hmm.
like vanity, and it's hard to say like I lost, right? Like I've had people give me feedback before. I'm like, yeah, I probably started a team too early where I didn't know what I was doing and I did it because everyone else was doing it. There's not a lot of people that go on a stage and say that, but there's a lot of people that's exactly why they started a team. Why why are you scared to admit it, right? I'm happy to admit it if it helps someone else not make the same mistake, or go, fuck, I did that too, right? Like I'm
I
not
think
alone.
everybody, I think a lot of people, probably a lot of leaders that did that, right?
Yeah. um but I just think that like, why do so many agents lie about their production? Because they don't want to be perceived as less. I mean, you guys, like, this is an industry full of number fudging.
Yeah.
Like, why? Right? I think it's because people just don't want to be perceived as less. Hey, my nephew at jujitsu last night, he's 18 years old. He tapped me out twice. I
I
got him
mean,
once.
you told me before we jump
Yeah,
live,
I
right?
know. But like, I got beat up. I got beat up last night by an 18-year-old, right? That's not hard to admit, but lots of people would never admit it.
Yeah, you're gonna get him tonight.
I'm going to get him tonight. I told
Yeah.
him I was going to get him tonight twice. But, but some people just wouldn't admit it, right? Why not? Doesn't make me less than who I am. Um, I think it's sad, at the end of the day. But um,
I think
yeah,
sometimes, with that said, I think, David, sometimes people feel like if they would show their losses or their mistakes, right, or really where they are, people would look at them as less,
mhm.
and they have that fear of, not being judged.
Mhm.
But we know fear is false evidence appearing real, right? In reality, maybe that doesn't even exist. They don't even think about you. They don't even care where you at, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love when someone tells me how much money they're making and I know they're not. And I'll be like, well, show me your bank account.
Uh, uh, uh,
Yeah,
uh,
and
uh,
most people don't open that Bank of America
the
app.
way I have the account set up, I have all the money in the checking account, a senior
Yeah,
account. I have to move things around. I have everything in
yeah,
stocks right now, crypto.
yeah. But I think that, I mean, it's this vulnerability. Like Brene Brown has like built a humongous brand on being vulnerable. Like that's awesome. I'm proud of her. I don't know her. Like it's amazing. Um, Man, I don't know if it's just like being, three sisters and a mom I was really close to that I'm especially willing to be vulnerable. But
Mm.
that's just something a lot of people are missing. People are willing to tell you
Yeah, I
their
think being
hero's
real.
journey, be vulnerable after they've achieved a lot of success. Like, why not tell it on the way?
Day one. Yeah, yeah. And I think, David, being real and being authentic, it really clicks with people, right? Because a lot of people, they
Yeah.
can resonate with it. I think all team
Mhm.
leaders, they had setbacks. They make mistakes. They were losing money, right? Like they had to fire their best friends. Like it probably did happen to a lot of people as team leaders. So why not talking about
Totally. I mean, one of my goals with being speaking or coaching or doing videos in my marketplace, whatever, is I just want people to go, well, he seems nice. He seems smart. I feel comfortable asking him a question. And if you see me at events,
it?
sometimes I'm like sneaking around with my friends because I'm not like the biggest extrovert. Like I'm extroverted. I like interpersonal relationships. But like I want everyone to feel comfortable. They can like ask me a question and I won't snub them or things like that. And I've heard some people be like, oh, you kind of like almost ignored me because I was standing by you. But I just like laser vision, go to my next thing. But it like hurts my feelings when someone says that because I don't want anyone to feel that way. Like I want, I want, it's important to me to be, approachable and genuine.
Yeah. Well, David, it was so good. I get so much value out of it myself. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're super busy. It's 3 p.m. Anything else would you like to leave the viewers with? Any tips, any suggestions?
Well, if we just go back to what this was supposed to be about being a team leader and growing a team, if you're not invested in being a great leader, if you don't want to become a better leader, if that's not going to be a lifelong skill that you want to build and sink into, just don't do it. Just don't
I
do
love
it.
it. I
Right.
love it.
Like developing yourself as a leader is the single most important thing that you can do if you want to lead people. And if you don't want to do that, you do not deserve to lead people. And I'm sorry about my voice.
Yeah. My mic drop. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. Love you.
Appreciate you. Love you, bro.
See you. Bye.